It is a tremendous honor today to have here for our Hanukkah visit two people which I hope that are very familiar to those who are tuning in today, and that is Bill and Sharon Moran. Now, those who are in the know also will know that it's really hard for me to call her Sharon because for as long as now I can remember, I've been calling her Sharon, preferring the Israeli pronunciation of the name. How are you guys doing? How are you holding up?
Fine, thank
Very
you.
well,
Yeah,
thank you.
very well.
Yeah, and so Bill and Sharon, I want to talk with you a little bit today about the work that you've been doing, especially in the area of welcoming people to Greensboro, welcoming them to Temple Emanuel. That Jewish value of hachnasat orchim, or hospitality, is really something that I know modestly you're not going to, kind of get out in front and brag about. But I think that those of us who are in our community here are just so grateful to you for the work that you've done now for the course of many, many years. So we're going to go into that. But why don't you at least tell us about your story? What brings you to Greensboro? Why did you come here to begin with?
Um, I have three boys, which did not have grandparents when they were growing up. And I was fortunate enough to be gifted with a granddaughter who was 3 years old, and it was time for us to retire. And I wanted to give her the gift of having a grandparent and showing my children what a grandparents could be. So we moved here.
Right. And if memory serves me correctly, your grandkids now are living in the greater Charlotte area, and yet you've decided to stick around here in Greensboro.
I have, yes. I am not leaving here. We fell in love with the community here, and uh, this is my home.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard similar stories to what you're describing right now. People who, their path kind of brings them here, whether it's for a job or because of family. And then, there's something that just kind of says, this place is home. And it sounds like that's a real resonant story for the two of you. Now, Bill, where are you guys? Where do you guys come from? Because the accent doesn't sound like it's from the south.
It's supposed to say New York, and actually in Fresh Meadows, which we moved from Fresh Meadows to over here, Casey Meadows,
No, it's Fleming Meadows.
Fleming Meadows,
But
actually,
yeah.
right? Yeah, and we go. So I guess we're always around the meadow somewhere, and we basically grew up to in that area our entire lives, and I think Sharon can fill you in with the rest of that story as how we met, and if you want that whole story, we can go through that too.
We actually met when I was 5 and he was 6. Um, and he accidentally threw a rock and hit my nose. And we reconnected when I was 15, and we've been together ever since.
That's
So
amazing.
childhood sweethearts. We lived around the corner from each other. We had a lot in common at the time and still do. So we grew up together. We would be about 50 something years, 52 years together and 45 years married. So
How many years have you been in Greensboro now?
7 and about 3 weeks.
Wow, right. And it just on the one hand, I get this feeling like I've known you guys forever, and I think that there are many people in Greensboro at Temple Emanuel, in particular, who would say that. Primarily because of the way that you really threw yourself in the community and saw welcoming others as an important value. Would you talk a little bit about why that's so important for you?
Moving here, I literally ripped my roots out of New York. When we created our home together for almost 38 years, it was in the same town that we grew up in, so we never left. And suddenly I didn't have the same neighbors, the same friends, the same family. I didn't have a congregation. My congregation building is disbanded. And we left after our children were bar mitzvahed, they had no desire to stay. And I always felt like strangers in a strange land. I never felt comfortable. And then we moved here, and I needed some connection to something that felt familiar. And the only thing, and I've said this to my children, is once you learn Hebrew and you learn the prayers, you can go anywhere in the world and hear those same things being said and feel comfortable that it's some sort of home. So the first place we went was to Temple. And I still felt alone. I needed something, some sort of connection. And it was really great to go to services every Friday and see the same people and feel comfortable and familiar. And as time went on, it began to feel like my home. So I wanted to start welcoming people into my second home because I needed it, and I didn't want anyone to feel that pain of not having any roots anywhere. So at least have some place to go.
Sharon would always say to me that, she didn't want anybody to feel the way we felt coming in. And she wanted to make sure that, personally, that it didn't happen. And, you say the only way to do that is to grab the bull by the horns and run with it.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating that, that you looked at and said, well, if we feel a certain way, right, we would want to make sure that on the one hand, other people also will be able to feel that way. In other words, if we felt welcome here, we would want to pass on that welcoming to others. And by the way, if there were moments that we felt like, gosh, we're so new here, and we wish to make connections. Well, instead of us saying, hey, this is something that's missing, let's go in there and just fill the gap, right? So if there were moments that it's like maybe someone isn't feeling welcome, gosh, we're going to be there in order to do that. I have seen you time and again walk over to people on Friday night at Temple or at other times at Temple and just say, wow, that person, we may not have met them before. And instead of making them feel out of place, because sometimes there are people that won't come around for a couple of years, and you'll go up to them and say, hey, you must be new here. It's like, no, I'm kind of my third generation here in Greensboro.
That's happened.
We had that.
But you guys are really good at walking over and just making, hi, we are the Morans, and it's great to meet you. I don't know that we've met before, and even if we have, just remind me. And you just got this way about you, which says to people, you are so welcome here. And I love that. So
thank you. But I do have to say thank you to you, because I have been thinking a lot about my why. And my why was that I was allowed to do this without being given permission. So I just went in, and I didn't know anybody, but I knew Louise. And I said, is there an empty room I could use just to have some sort of gathering? And I didn't feel, she didn't say, oh, you can't do that, you have to ask permission. I mean, I kind of did it behind the scenes because I'm not an out there person. I'd rather be a fly on the wall. So that was really out of my comfort zone to be able to do that. But it's not a work. It's a passion. And like you said, I don't want anybody to feel the way I did. I think that people come to join us for many different reasons. But the one thing that I don't have is any reason to join us for Coffee and Connections other than to have a cup of coffee, as I always have, and connect. So he makes the coffee, we make the connection.
Yeah, she's the connector and I'm the coffee man.
I love it. Tell us a little bit about that, because that's been going on for a number of years now. And just give the setting. We all realize that. Take us into the room. Where are you at Temple prior to March of 2020?
So we're in the library, which has a comfortable setting of almost a living room experience. And I wanted it to feel like it wasn't a room where there was a lecture and it was cold, but it was a room where it was inviting, almost like, come into my home. This is my home. Come sit down, have a cup of coffee, relax. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Be real. because I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just asking you to join us for a little bit of hour and have some conversation. I now have a question to ask, which everybody in the room gets to answer. So we get to listen and to learn how to listen. And we also have to, and everyone is authentic and everybody answers, and we learn so much from each other.
And laugh also.
So I don't ask very deep questions about like how you grew up, but let's talk about some television shows
Well,
or
positive things, I think.
catchphrases and things that you remember and things that were helpful to you in your life. Once a month, I try to ask people one word, how they're feeling. And through these months, it's been changing. Sometimes it's more hopeful than others, but as the time grew on and it's every week, we can comfort each other in a real authentic way without anyone feeling judged by it.
I mean, Coffee and Connections has just been such an important touch point for so many people. I just, as one of your rabbis, want to thank you for this consistent effort during this time, because I think it has been one of the bright lights over the course of the past 8 months. So thank you so much as we go forward.
Andy, I think also one of the important things is that the leadership of our temple, meaning you and Fred, really make it very easy for us to do what we want to do, because it's not like we have we do have a game plan, but you hand us the football and say we can run with it and do what we want with it. And in other places you can't do that. This is the way it is, and this is the way it was in New York for us. That they really didn't want to go do things or try and step out of bounds because you're going to get called for a flagrant foul. So I think because of the way you've made us feel comfortable and allowed us to do what we want to do, or what Sharon's really wanted to do, and she's made me part of it, is to come up with this idea and just go and do what we feel benefits everyone in the congregation.
Well, thank you. I mean, you guys have really put so much of yourselves into this, but you've also been so welcoming to others. I love coming into Coffee and Connection, sometimes just to listen to where people are, although I also get a chance, and thank you for this, to chime in and to answer, some of the questions of the day. And, Mickey and I really look forward to this each week. When I'm not able to make it, and there have been some weeks that my schedule's just pulled me away, I really feel like I've missed something. And I highly encourage, if you've not been doing this up till now, this Hanukkah, this might be a really great gift to yourself going forward. Make it look so effortless, but
I'm definitely out of my comfort zone.
Could be a whole week. Could be a whole week of going through questions. Is this a good question? Is that a good question? What do you think? And then could be Friday morning at 9 o'clock. She may wake up and say, "What do you think of this question? Let's change it." So I mean, a lot of effort goes into that question.
The questions have to be non-specific. So if someone is alone or doesn't have children, or they're still able to answer these questions. Sometimes they make you think, and sometimes they just bring up a food from your childhood, or a movie, or a commercial, or a Torah portion, or something that connects us all together, which is why we have the coffee and the connection. But more than that, I get back so much more than I give, and each and every person that comes to the meeting has something to give us. Everybody, so the way I think of it, and this is my metaphor, everyone is a flower, and when they come, my bouquet gets put together. And so in the end, that's what I've got, is something different from everyone.
And every week that bouquet changes and it looks beautiful by the time you're done with it.
I have a couple of other questions. I know that you've been involved with Temple's membership committee, And I just want you to talk for a moment about what that's been like, and if there are any particular initiatives that you think that our community here should know more about.
Okay, so I am co-chair with Jerry Plofsky. We are a team, but we have a team working with us as well.
Your supporting cast.
Yeah, real supporting cast, because it takes a village to do everything. So I am never alone, and I don't do it alone. I have my partner here for Coffee and Connections, and then everybody else who joins in as well. But membership committee, we've created a program called the Ambassador Program, which we assign one person from the membership committee to follow these people for a year or more, if they choose, just to check in on them, find out how they're doing, find out what works for them in Temple, what doesn't work for them, and kind of get a feel of what these people need along the way to help them feel more connected to however they want to be connected to us.
You have been connected to Chevra Torah, to Temple's Torah study, weekly Torah study, really, I think, dating back for many, many years. Tell me a little bit about how you prepare yourself, how you put yourself in the space for that as a family. This is very interesting. I think I know
So
the answer.
I was actually telling somebody the other day that I grew up very Jewish, but I had no connection. And I knew a few Bible stories. I heard them from my kids, but I didn't know them. And when I first came, people said, "Come to Hebrew Torah. You're gonna be introduced to 50 people at one time." And I was like, "No, that's not for me. I don't want to sit over a Bible and study." And so eventually I decided to go and make a commitment that unless I was sick, I would come every week. And there would be some reference in the first year to another story. And because we don't sit over the Torah and read the whole portion, there are some things that are left out, which I've learned. Eventually you get to tease them out, but it's not every time. So every Friday night on Shabbat, after our dinner, we read the Torah portion. And it has still gone on that every Friday night, that's part of our Shabbat.
And the amazing part is that come Saturday morning, when we're sitting there among 30 to 50 people, as we go through that Torah portion, we look at each other and say, like, "Hey, I must have missed that part." Like, or it's always different. It's great. And actually, just to chime in on Sharon's comments, at one point, Sharon said to me, "You really have to come to this class. It's fantastic." I kept saying, nah. And finally I said, "Okay, I'll go." Well, make the long story short, I haven't missed a class since. It's fantastic, and every year and every time you go, the story almost changes. I mean, you find out something different that you didn't know before. And it's just fantastic. And I think there's something there for everybody. It's wonderful. And again, it's because of the two people that teach it. I can't say I hate to say it. I love to say it. I'll say it all day long to whoever will listen.
And it's helping.
And thank you.
Yeah. And it's helping us grow roots.
Yeah, I think about it as not only Chevra Torah, how it's impacted me as a teacher and as your rabbi, but also how it's impacted me as a parent and as a friend, and so many of the other connections I have in my life. So I'm grateful for that opportunity also.
I'm grateful for learning so much and learning a lot about myself, because it's not only learning the stories, but it's learning about who you want to be and what you want to strive for. So yeah, sometimes I'm out of my comfort zone.
And I don't bring a donut to the teacher, but we do enjoy bringing tea to the teacher.
Bill and Sharon, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for being part of this conversation. I'm really, really grateful, and we'll all see each other soon. Let's go ahead and give one of these hearts right now.
Andy, can we have a dozen of those donuts to go, please?
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Samia.